Hello and welcome to this month's sales tip, the sales tip for March 2019, and this month comes from the island of Sal in Cape Verde. Cape Verde being the most westerly point in the continent of Africa, and indeed the most westerly country in the continent of Africa, and which has provided the inspiration in a strange, unusual sort of way for this month's sales tip, which I'll come to in just a moment. If you're wondering why I've got the microphone right by my face, it's a bit breezy today, and unless I had this right up close, unfortunately the sound would be a little bit muffled, so hopefully you can hear me okay. But as I say, on to the tip for this month. So beautiful place, fantastic location, and not surprisingly my wife and I knew exactly what we wanted to achieve from being here, and we planned ahead. I like my diving, so I made contact with the dive shop, sorted my dive equipment, packed it, worked out what baggage allowance I was allowed to take on the aircraft. Those of you who've been following the tips for a while will know that I love my fishing, so I brought my fishing gear out with me, all ready to go, and of course I love swimming and all of that kind of thing as well. So I got my plan of action sorted, and I got all my kit sorted, everything that I would need to help me along the way. And in many ways, I guess that's like a lot of you who've got annual targets, and particularly those of you who have an annual target that's based on the calendar year from January to December. Because 2 months of that have now gone. We're into month 3, we're at the beginning of March, and by the end of this month we'll be 25% of the selling time through the year. So I would guess you've started off with a plan that says, okay, this is what I want to achieve this year, and this is what I'm going to need to take with me, bit like my packing, in order to get me to the destination that I want. Which brings me on to what's happened this week. It's not quite gone to plan, to be honest with you. Arrived on Friday. By Saturday morning I was under the care of the local physician here with a deep-seated infection in my foot. I've got to keep clear of water. No diving, no swimming, and fishing has not exactly been easy, because it's very difficult to fish if you're finding it difficult to walk. Fortunately, I had insurance in place, so whilst this has been a little bit of a nuisance to say the least, my insurance policy means that at least I'm covered. Which brings me on to the point of this month's tip. I was working with a group of key account managers a couple of years back now, and I said to them, tell me, how many of you are working on a number of opportunities right now? They all put their hands up. And I said, tell me, how many of you are expecting at least one of these to not happen? And everybody put their hands down. So I asked the third question, which was, tell me, how many of you were working on a number of opportunities with your key accounts last year, and at least one of them was lost unexpectedly through something that neither you or the key account had control or influence over? Guess what? 100% of people suddenly put their hands up. And this is why I've been prompted to think, because of my insurance policy, about ensuring that you've set the right personal target for yourself and you have the right plan in place to achieve that personal target. My recommendation is, don't make a plan to achieve 100% of target. And if that's what you've done, go back, revisit it, evolve it now. Instead, make sure you have an insurance policy in place. Plan for at least 120% of target. Look, for reasons that you don't know, you haven't thought about, your key account hasn't thought about, your customers haven't thought about, at least one big opportunity could unfortunately slip away. Or you could be sick for a while and lose a significant amount of selling time. Or you could be called on to help with an internal project and lose a lot of time away from frontline sales. But for whatever reason, there could be some slippage along the way. Now, if you've got an insurance policy of having planned for 120%, it doesn't matter, because you'll still end up at 100% of target. And you know, if nothing happens and you've planned for 120%, well, happy days, because you'll still end up at 120% or more, which means more incentive payment and more commission along the way. And you're probably feeling pretty smug about yourself for having planned that as well. So, the sales tip for this month, as it turns out, I wasn't expecting a problem. I had my plan in place, but I had insurance. Unfortunately, that insurance has now paid dividends. Have you got an insurance policy for your annual sales plan? Don't plan for 100%, plan for 120%, have that insurance policy in place. The very worst that's going to happen is you will achieve that 120%, and that's not a bad thing. Hope that makes sense as ever. Look forward to seeing you next month when I think I'm going to be coming to you from another interesting geographical location. See you then.